Further, well, it really depends who you're asking, right? A lot of the times, if you ask two different people, they're gonna have completely different opinions. So someone who has development experience and is a former computer science student, he's gonna have completely different opinion than someone who has never studied computer science. Even though they both know computer science, they're gonna have different opinion. So the first guy might be like, yes, do need computer science because you learn all these data structure, you learn about queues, you learn about how computer networks work, how computers work, blah 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 blah. And the person who has not studied computer science might say something like, no, you don't need it. Well, they both are right from their own point of view. The second person who says you don't need it, maybe he's working in a company where you don't use computer science, or maybe he has knowledge of computer science. He just doesn't uh, admit, or he just doesn't acknowledge it. I know a lot of people who are really really good with algorithms. Um, they have understanding of data structures. They don't create their own data structures, like as in they'll use an existing library to put together a structure, or things like keeping the code clean. Well, that's also sort of a sub niche in computer science, right? So it really comes down to who you're asking, and to be fair, nobody's wrong. So you got computer science. In computer science, you got data structure, algorithm, and then you got design patterns as well. Um, I personally use design patterns a lot. Um, Now, there's times where I don't use design patterns, and if you ask me if I apply every single computer science technique into the code that I write, I'll probably say no, I don't, because most of the time I don't need it. But there are times where I need to think about how I should write the query, which query is slow, which one is fast, how to make queries faster, um, whether a collection is faster than an array, and things like that, which sort of loop to use, and just making a best judgment. You also need to realize that in real life, things are not so linear. So just because an algorithm is faster than the another algorithm doesn't mean you use the first one. In real life, you might end up in a situation where you use a slow algorithm because there is other aspects to it. There is data that needs to be read from the database. There data needs to be written to the file and database. It needs to be fast. It needs to be cached, and then there's a lot of things that come into play here. So it really depends who you ask, whether you need computer science or not. But at the end of the day, it's good to have knowledge of data structures, how they are put together, and just browse the people's code and see how they have implemented the data structure. Um, it's good to know algorithms. A lot of the time, you're not gonna come across situations where you use different sort of algorithms, but a lot of times you might. It depends on the project you're working on, but that's not to say you're not going to come across any algorithms at all. You might do so when you're working on a bit more complicated projects. So again, design patterns um, used so tightly with object-oriented programming. Um, so yeah, just learn the basic stuff of computer science. See how HTTP works. See how networks work. How queues work. How different stacks work. And that's all you probably need ever, to be fair. And obviously, when you're going for interviews, you need to make sure your CV is good and you can solve the interview challenges, which is kind of test your knowledge of computer science itself. So maybe you won't need it after you get the job, but initially, to get past the first couple of stages, you will need some knowledge of computer science. So yeah, there's no harm in learning computer science. Just go out, spend some time, buy a decent book, and study for half an hour every day. See where it leads you to. It's definitely helpful. Maybe not very helpful at all when you're working with smaller projects, but generally, as you get more at senior, you start to see more complicated code bases where you could see like, okay, this design pattern would be a nice fit here, and things like that. So yeah, definitely go learn computer science. um, pick the things that you are interested in computer science and study that. There's no harm. As a developer, you're learning anyway. instead of picking a new framework tomorrow, why don't you just study some computer science concept? Why don't you just study some basics and fundamentals? It's not always about language, right? It's something that marketing people will try to tell you. People selling your courses, just do this course, do that course. But it's not so straightforward. Just get the fundamentals down. Even if it's slowly, even if you're a senior developer, get the fundamentals down. There is no harm in that, right? So yeah, study where you can. It's definitely gonna help you. Uh, Probably not in a very direct way. Probably not in next year or so. If you're not a senior developer, if you're junior, it's not gonna help you initially, but eventually it will help you. I can guarantee you that it'll help you in the job itself, in the interview, in many other things. It'll also develop your critical thinking and many other things that you need as a programmer anyway. These are the foundation. So yeah, study computer science. It's good.